It's another exciting episode of The Trading Bell for you right now. I'm Malika Kazia. Welcome. And today we're going to be talking all about tourism and, of course, the tourism sector with none other than Vidya Jethwa, who is the Managing Director of Globetrotter Agency Limited. And she's joining me, of course, here at the NSE trading floor today for this particular interview. And we're going to get right into the conversation. But before that, take a look at her profile. Vidya Jethwa is the Managing Director of Globetrotter Agency Limited. She started in aviation as a cabin crew member with East African Safari Air and later moved on to sales at Jetlink to rise to the rank of e-ticketing and call center manager from 2005 to 2012. She learnt various ropes of the business and the aviation world as a whole, from revenue and yield management to filing affairs on the back office of the airlines. She later joined Etihad Airways as a field sales executive and left the same to start Globetrotter Agency Limited, which is her passion. She runs the daily operations, meets clients and searches for new business. All right, Vidya, thank you so much for making time for us today, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
So Globetrotter Agency, you do tours, you do travel. Just, lay the land for us a little bit. What is it exactly that you do?
So Globetrotter Agency Limited is a travel agency like any other travel agency. We do tours, ticketing, MICE, conferences, car hire, transfers, visas, to name a few.
Wide.
Quite wide, yeah, and quite diverse as well.
Yeah.
We started in February 2015, fifth year running, and growing as we talk.
Okay, that's amazing. So I do know you're listed. You're also part of the Ibuka Incubation and Acceleration Program at the NSE.
Yes.
So what is your experience so far being on the Ibuka program?
It's an amazing experience because we not only get recognized, or rather we have been seeing some recognition coming through. Of course, we had interviews lined up with some of the realtors back some time back, and we do see a lot of feedback coming in. We do see people asking us why Ibuka, what is it all about,
yes.
What is happening, why us as a young travel agent just as old as 5 years, why are we part of it? But that's a decision we took, a step we took to move ahead and want to see how we can grow around with it.
So it definitely helps your future expansion plans as well.
Yes, it's all about having capital injection, just to make sure that we grow. We have our 5-year strategy plan that we've laid out, be it short term, be it long term. As much as we have been part and parcel of the Imperial Bank saga, where we've been hit very badly with it.
Oh no. Mm-hmm.
But all in all, we're looking forward to just moving ahead, making sure that we are recognized, get the market share. We should be accepted to be at least the leading agency, if nothing else.
So bouncing back from such a financial crunch, I imagine, with this sort of, bank dip, how did you manage to ensure that you were still staying afloat? What were some of the crisis management strategies you had to, put into place?
Wow, quite a difficult one. But what normally happens is, with such, we were banking with Imperial Bank for a very long time. So when it hit us really below the belt. Of course, we ended up having a borrowing from Diamond Trust. And that's what, pushed us and continued us with the business that we are continuing to do with.
So definitely very tricky times for you. But
very.
Glad that you've bounced back, you're okay, you're part of the Ibuka program, like you say. And I think if we talk more about the tourism sector, which is what you're a part of, we have seen from the reports coming out of the Kenya Tourism Board that the tourism numbers are definitely up. We saw a growth of 31.26% in terms of tourism receipts from 2017 to 2018. What are some of the differences you've noted in this growth?
I guess what's becoming easier is the way of how a normal person is trying to book. Africa is perceived to be a late booking market.
Okay.
That trend is slightly changing. A lot of people now are planning their holidays accordingly. People are already focusing on the December holidays, for example, right now. People have already sorted out their Easter holidays back last year in December. Some would think of all the school holidays coming up.
So pre-bookings.
Yeah, a lot of pre-bookings are happening, and I think all the hotels are taking advantage of all that. Travel agents are also taking advantage of that, because you try to get good pricing bargain to make sure that it becomes a bit affordable to work around as well.
All right. So when it comes to those bookings and things like that, the report also noted that, one of the top sources of the markets was the US, followed by Tanzania and then Uganda, and then UK and India. So very wide, regional as well as international. But when it comes to the international market, what are some of the top things that need to be in place for international tourists to be satisfied?
The first thing I would say would be the infrastructure in the country with a lot of security, because a little thing goes wrong here and the advisories are out immediately.
True.
And that slightly kills the tourism market, because that's another source of income that is in this country as well as a whole. So if a lot of infrastructure is put in place, slightly better security, then the advisories would not be there. I'm sure there are lots of issues around the world, but we get affected immediately being in Africa.
Okay.
So those are the things we're looking at. Again, I think as a part of tourism, Kenya should be well marketed. They're doing their bit. The tourism boards are trying their level best to put it out there, but it's not 100% marketed the way it's supposed to be. We have the most beautiful beaches around, very clean. Go to the south side, you'll see very clean beaches around. North side, there's lots of places to visit. You have the bushes. Everybody thinks of the Mara. We have life migration that happens every year. You get to see gazillions of animals crossing over from Tanzania. You don't get to see this experience very easily. You get to see all this from a balloon safari, which you don't get to see very easily anywhere in the world. So we have lots of beautiful places to visit. Mountaineering is one of the things that people need to come across. I mean, as much as we only have Mount Kenya, but you can still come around and have a look at how it looks like.
So there's so many opportunities, like you've just mentioned, to market the country, to market the tourism factor. And we did see about 2 million international arrivals, just about 2,025,000 in 2018. But, when it comes to the marketing then, who do you think needs to push more?
I think the tourism board from here should be able to do it. The Kenya Tourism Board that we have, of course, there's a board called Magical Kenya,
yes,
which needs to go out really aggressively to promote the tourism on its own, because they might be doing a lot of participation in exhibitions, but you don't find them in all the exhibitions. There's a lot of international exhibitions that happen, but you find Kenya never represented 100% well out there. So when you go and tell them, if you've attended an exhibition, if you tell them you're from Kenya, the first thing is like, oh, where is that from? And
really?
You're like, but it's in Africa.
Wow.
So some of the people don't even know where exactly we are. Or is Kenya a country, or is it just Africa? That's how it's perceived to be.
Such a Western misconception, yes, which I thought we are slowly but surely overcoming. I mean, especially if you've seen the Twitter wars that sometimes
yes,
occur, and you're like, well, Kenya is a country, Africa is a continent. Get your facts right. But it's like that. We still need to keep pushing the, yes, agenda home.
Yes.
And where would you say are some of the international spots we mostly need to target to be there and to show off that our country has this and we can get you to experience it?
In terms of sports, I think we have football. We are very good with football. We have cricket, we have rugby, which keeps happening. There's Dubai Sevens that keep happening every year. Cricket is another thing that's picking up as a whole. Football, of course, is like the gazillions of fanatics around here. And we have the local football teams that need to be, marketed well, or lots of other tournaments that can be taken place, and you can actually show off the country.
Okay, fantastic. So if we get back to Globetrotter itself, what are some of the services you offer that set you apart from anybody else in the space?
Well, we have everything that a normal travel agency would do, like from ticketing, which is regional, international tickets, organizing tours, whether you have a walk-in client or a corporate client, or doing anything for them. But what we've done is we have a borrowed idea from the airlines, which when you buy a business class or a first class ticket out of us, we actually give you a free transfer to the airport from your office or home in Nairobi and back. We are now trying to also establish the same with the economy passengers, because everybody wants to get to the airport. I mean, yes, there are different means of getting to the airport. Either you have your own driver, you have Uber, you have Taxify, and other means to go. But we now are saying, you know what, if you're buying a ticket from us, we'll actually take you to the airport and make it a bit easier. So we're like a one-stop shop for all your needs of travel.
Okay, fantastic. And speaking of airlines, ever since we have the direct flight from New York to Nairobi, have you seen an increase in the number of people coming in from the States?
As of now, I would not be able to say yes to it because it started and it kind of stopped, and now they're restarting it again in June, so we'll get to see that very soon.
Okay, because I know that was, supposed to
Yes.
be something that injects a lot of life into the tourism side as well
Yes.
for the country. But when we talk a little bit, away from this, for you personally, you told me before we began that you started your journey actually as a part of cabin crew. So how was that for you until you got to this point?
So travel is more like passion. What happened is, yes, I started my journey as a cabin crew with one of the local airlines here, which was doing international flights. And then I moved to a company that was more regional here as well, which is Jetlink Express. And then from there I moved to Etihad Airways. A different experience altogether with all the companies, but after working with them, I thought, since this is what drives me or motivates me to do this, I will continue doing it for myself, and hence the birth of Globetrotter.
Amazing. So, of course, you transitioned sort of from the
Yes.
employment to entrepreneurship and now to this stage. What are some of the biggest tips, the greatest advice that you would give somebody who wants this transition? Because young people in Kenya, of course, have so many ambitions. A lot of them have great business ideas, and somehow, somewhere, you get stuck if you're in this employment cycle. So, what are some of the biggest takeaways you would have for somebody transitioning?
So for me, it has been the fact that I have a guiding factor who's always with me, and that's my mentor as well. He's known as Captain Kiran Patel. I look up to him for so many advices, and I think he's been the biggest person in my life to allow me to take the plunge into the ocean and start my own business. Because working, for somebody, yes, it's a very vicious circle. It goes round and round and round, and you can never get out of it very easily. What I would say is, if you want to get into your own business, I think you just must have to take a deep and come afloat. It's not easy. It has its own challenges depending on what ideas you have, and it can be very challenging with especially the need of capital.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're working, you have a fixed salary. Here, you might not have a fixed salary to yourself. And that's what you have to do. And you have long working hours. If your working hours in a normal company would be 8 to 5, here you're anticipating to work at least 16 hours, if not less.
So especially capital, of course,
Yes.
is key. And when the economy sometimes can be intimidating to be a part of. So what are your, sort of sources starting out to be able to get that capital?
This would be a lot of personal savings. We must learn to also do some savings for ourselves and see how you can do it. And I think personal savings tries to help you, because if you want to start something of your own, yes, or at least, family trying to help you if you are coming from a good background, financially, and you can start your own business, because you must have a lot of capital, these days. And as much as, yes, there's bank borrowings, but how much can you borrow is another question. The interest rates might just end up killing the little profits that you might make.
Absolutely. And coming back to Globetrotter, what are some of the ambitions you have for the coming 5 years, or the coming 5 maybe a bit far then for you, maybe just the next few years, where you see yourself going, especially as part of the Ibuka program?
So I do have a 5-year strategy plan, I must say, like any other organization. But as we go along, the first thing I would want to achieve, at least for this year, with the help of Ibuka, of course, would be to be IATA. I'm a non-IATA travel agent that's running for 5 years, and we do intend to become IATA hopefully by December 2019. So we're looking at that. The processes are just getting onto in place, and that's how we're working on that, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Vidya, and for sharing a lot of knowledge as well as insight. And we're glad to have had you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malika.
All right, well, that was the Managing Director for Globetrotter Agency,